Hi, and welcome to the weekly woo for October 20th to October 26, 2025. So this week is jam-packed, action-filled, and it is busy, busy, busy. And she's emotional, it's intense, and it means business, either way, positive or negative. When I look at this week's lineup of aspects and shifts, etc., we have something basically vital every day of the week. And that's imperative that we stay reasonably good-natured, flexible, light on our feet, and be willing to adapt. Again, this is another one of those weeks where your daily plans are going to not only change for the day, but they're probably going to change multiple times a day, which can be annoying or irritating, but roll with it as best you can. And the other thing, if you don't like your current plans, give it a couple hours, because guaranteed they're going to change. So with that being said, we will move on to basically, I'll start with my shifts and overshadowing energies. I'm just kind of changing things up for efficiency as I go through the recordings week by week. So our planetary shifts for this week are October 21st, we are going to have the new moon in Libra at 28 degrees. So remember, put out your new moon intentions, and that can run anywhere from the next 2 weeks, like new moon to full moon, or they do take on a circuit of about 6 months. Okay, so the 21st, add 6 months, and that will be the full moon in Libra, and that will, of course, close out a lunar cycle. On October 22nd, we have Neptune retrograde re-entering Pisces. So, is that a big deal? Yeah, it kind of is. So when Neptune re-enters Pisces, that's going to be its very last time. It's just, it goes back over to recultivate and review things and look at things and unveil things and take the mask or the illusion off things. And it's going to roll back into Aries for a couple months, Pisces retrograde for a couple months, and then it's going to go back direct motion. And at the point it's finishing up its cycle in Aries for good, it's going to be indefinitely done for another 165 years. So each planet has its own series of days or duration in a sign. But Neptune is in a sign for about 14 years. The complete transit would be 165 years. So think back to about 14 years ago, and whatever has gone on in that particular time zone of 14 years, it will be some sort of eroding or dissolving away in cycles in life. So you can see where it would have started back about 14 years ago and where we are today. So it will end, and you will never see this, because none of us right now will live long enough to see Neptune back in Pisces again. So Neptune in Pisces was very, very flavored by drugs and alcohol and illusions and addictions. And we, as a good example of that, we could actually see that play out on the global scale over the last 14 years, okay? So when it's done its retrograde back into Pisces for the very last time for our lifetime, it will move into Aries full time, okay? So moving on. So also on October 22nd, we will have the sun entering into Scorpio. So happy birthday to all the Scorpio folks out there. And so this brings us to a Scorpio stellium. So what does that mean? It means it's very, very, very intense. It's emotional. It's very desire-ridden, and it covers many, many areas. But it's the deep dive of the zodiac. It's the most intuitive, psychic, basically sign of the zodiac, in my opinion. It's one of the most powerful signs of the zodiac, but it's very, very, very hard to get a handle on, to control it. It's, you want your desires, but you need to control yourself. Just because you feel it, you want it, doesn't mean you act on it. So, and it's also very, very motivation ridden or oriented, meaning high vibrational Scorpios will see things and they will want to know the motivation behind it. Why, or what is going on here, and why would this take this channel or this path in life? When I talk to many high vibe Scorpios, the first thing that will come out of their mouth is, people, they just don't get it. And so it's a very deep dive, subconscious, psychological, deep emotional sign where it goes into the deep topics, the deep subjects, which a lot of people can't resonate with sometimes in the 3D world. So it takes on the Scorpio flavor. Now Scorpio, it rules the 8th house, Pluto rules Scorpio, Mars rules Scorpio, and the eighth house is very, very highlighted this entire week. So when we have a stellium, that means we have 3 or more planets in one sign. In that particular case, by midweek, we will have the Sun in Scorpio, we will have Mercury in Scorpio, and we have Mars in Scorpio. And Mars is in its home sign of Scorpio. So that's why it takes on such a heavy flavor of Scorpio. And Scorpio is the sign of death and rebirth and transformation and transition. Okay, so it means, in this time of the year, I don't know if you'll ever notice, like a perfect example I had someone say to me is, the fall, which is Scorpio season, everything dies off and it prepares for that dark, dead season of winter. Like the leaves fall off and everything's left with kind of like the skeleton structures, like trees, for example, and it goes into hibernation mode, getting ready to regenerate itself in the spring. So it's kind of like the death season, which really in nature that does occur. So we could be talking about it can entail physical death, of course. I mean, that's a given, especially it's very, very highlighted this particular week at the start of it anyway. Or it can be figurative endings, right? It could be jobs, careers, or you might be thinking about ending something, but it's very figuratively linked with death and transformation, transition onto the next cycle. So apply that accordingly. Then I think that will basically end our shifts for this particular week, and now I want to address the overshadowing larger energies. And so retrograde planets, we will have Saturn retrograde, and that is retrograded back into Pisces too. And again, that's its last transit through that sign after this retrograde is done. We will not see Saturn in Pisces for another 28 to 30 years. So that's a pretty big thing too. So we got Saturn and Neptune kind of holding hands in that last stroke or that last phase, the last few months in that sign. So it becomes very intense and it wants to be seen, it wants to be known, and it's going to flex its muscles. And often the retrograde becomes the unveiling, the truths, going back over, recultivating, and exposure, okay? Lessons learned, truths coming out, and reality checks. We have Neptune retrograde, and we will start the week retrograde in Aries, and then, of course, like I said, it will re-enter Pisces for the very last time for another 165 years. And again, flip back to that 14 years ago and think back what was going on. What have you all accomplished in life? What's been changed? What's been transitioned? What has eroded away in life? It will do that. Or it takes off those rose-colored glasses, see reality for what it is. Uranus is retrograde in Gemini. So we had 3 planet retrogrades, and I want to touch base on the post-shadow eclipse season. And just remember, the post-shadow eclipse season, that with the final partial solar eclipse would have been September 21st, would have been the completion of the bridge season of eclipse season. And so I allow 60 days, 2 months. And sometimes, that's upon each astrologer. They just go by what they feel is about the most accurate time zone. So about 2 months is my feel about it. So that will take us from September, October into November 21st. So ironically enough, in my particular time zone of 60 days, that basically ends with the end of Scorpio season. So how ironic is that? So remember, eclipse seasons come along to they bring permanent changes in life. So those are the trajectory shifts that we all will live in life, and they kind of realigns us with our life's journey or path ahead, the destined, fated Dharma path ahead. And those are the changes that come in that we have absolutely nothing to say about. They are the non-negotiable changes. The only thing we have anything to say about is how we respond or we emotionally react. So we roll with the punches with that. And the example of like a total lunar eclipse, I always use this example, is I actually did see somebody's house actually burn to the ground to like nothing left on a total lunar eclipse once. So that becomes a permanent change, right? It's done, it's over with, and it brings something new because you have to build a new house, right? Because the old one's gone, so the new one's established. But that's extreme. That doesn't apply to anybody. It's just an example too, so you can understand what that eclipse energy is. So eclipses bring in permanent change, small, medium, or large. We have nothing to say about it. It's not negotiable. And the changes tend to be permanent in nature. So eclipses eclipse people, places, things, stuff in or out of life on a permanent scale. So that's how that would apply. And so now with the eclipse season, we have our lunar nodes sitting in Pisces and Virgo. And so what that's actually known as the health axis. And so the nodes run in about an 18 and a few days cycle, 18 years and a few days cycle. So when you think back to 2006, 2007, 2008, and that will definitely have a health link issue in there in some way, shape, or form. So it doesn't mean the exact same things are going to be happening from back in those years, but back in those years, that's exactly the same time frame as what we're sitting in today. So that means the nodes are sitting on those same signs as 18 years ago. And so it will have similar themes, similar storylines. And if this is not you, often I've seen this play out. If it's not you, it can be the next generation below, or it can be the next generation above. If your parents are still alive, depending on your age, right? But you can see similar themes, and that can be you again, and it can be your children, actually. So just think back to those times. So when we have those overshadowing energies, it means it's not the daily something that goes on. Well, it can be. Eclipse season can be something that drastically happens in a day or a week for sure. But it's like that overcast sky. It's like, when you go uptown to work, or you're heading to your job, your 9 to 5 job. If the sun is shining, you would dress accordingly. You might wear a short sleeve shirt because the weather is nice, and then you might end up with an overcast, cold, showery day. Well, then you dress accordingly. You take rubber boots and maybe an extra jacket, take an umbrella. So your daily routine keeps on doing the same thing, but you have those larger overcast or overshadowing energies that would affect kind of how you would approach each day. So that's a bit of an example how you can apply that. Okay, so that covers that. And so I'm going to take a look on the aspect. So this week, I think I described it on my Facebook astrology page as it reminds me of a twisted ice cream cone. So if you had chocolate and you had vanilla, chocolate being the dark side of things and vanilla being the bright or light side of things, it's a twist. It's a very, very highlighted mixed bag because we have trines and we have squares, which means we have lots of good things going on, but we have lots of challenges, conflict. It can be pulled in two different directions. It can be fighting. We have sesquiquadrates, which means it's a pick a fight aspect. That's what I like to call it. So it's irritation, it's agitation, and it's tension, it's confusion, and it can be, especially in Scorpio, I would very, very highly recommend you guys stay hyper vigilant on your behavior because Scorpio wears that stinger on the tail. And so this is a very, very, very easy week where fights can come about. And it's very, very triggering this week. So be very, very focused on the positive aspects and take it from there. So our best days, I put it this way, if you're focused on the negative, you're going to miss the boat with all the good opportunities and auspicious opportunities that will come or arise, or good flow and the time to do good things. So if you're focused on the negative, you're going to stay in the negative, you're going to miss the boat of good. So be very focused and be very, very aware of what's going on around you. And if you're being triggered or poked or someone's trying to toss you a hook to engage in conflict, avoid it. Don't go there because that's going to take you no place good, especially this week because we have a high-powered Sun square Pluto, and that's a nasty one. This week, I would suggest, mind your P's and Q's, mind your own business. Don't get involved in other people's drama or conflict, and you should be okay. So I'm just going to list off our best days. So the best day and the worst day could actually be the 20th. Why I say that is because we have a Mercury conjunct Mars. And so to me, when I look at that, as much as, astrologers or the astrology world says conjunctions are mostly good, which they are, but it's not realistic to say that it's all good because conjunctions, they're fused. They're right on top of each other, which means they can swing either way, positive or negative. So it depends how you react, how you take in things, how you respond, not emotionally react. And it can be very emotionally triggering this week. So that can be very, very, very good, or it can be extremely, extremely out of control. So that could be, Mercury says, let's get the party started. It gives you ambition. It gives you energy within. You're willing to go do things. It could be great communications, but on the shadow side of that, that can be words of war. That's Mercury, anything communicated, linked with the god of war, and Mars cuts away. It cuts, like it could be people literally being cut on the finger or on the body, whatever. I would also put out a warning. Be very, very careful about the head getting cuts on the head because Mars is linked with the first house. The first house is basically about the physical body and specifically the head area, okay? So, and that can be, and because we have Mercury involved, that can be migraines, that can be headaches. So, that can be extremely, extremely good, that aspect, or it can be out of control, fighting, war, conflict, aggression, that kind of thing. So it can be very, very carried away the other way. So don't engage if you're being provoked. It can be very provoking energy. And the new moon, like again, new intentions, but again, that Mercury conjunct Mars is going to be a little bit charged by that new moon energy too. So even though it's a new moons, full moons always tend to bring out the worst in behavior. I've heard this over and over again. If you ever go visit long-term care or those kind of things, the nurses on the ward will always say you can always tell when it's a new moon or a full moon by the behaviors of the patients in those facilities. So go figure, right? Okay, so the 20th can be really, really good. That one rides the rail, but it can be really, really bad. So I will definitely add it with a list of good. That can be very, very good communication coming in, very ambitious, very energetic. New moon 21st, that can be quite good because that's new intentions. There is going to be a mixed bag on the 24th. So we have the Pluto square on the 24th, and we also have a Mercury trine Jupiter. So the 24th is also a good day, but you're going to have to be very, very focused in order to find the good, because most often negative hangs with people. They aren't able to shake that negative energy off quite so easily, especially with a Pluto square involved. Okay, and then the next good day is going to be the 25th. That's reasonably good because we have a Mercury trine Saturn. So that could really mean, manifesting things into physical form. Good karmic rewards coming in, or good karmic energy coming, payback in kind. Okay, that will also depend on what's going on in the past. That will not, just because it's good trines and good aspects, it doesn't mean it's going to play out favorably for everybody, because everybody's got a different storyline. If it doesn't play out that way, often it's karmic involved, meaning you'll get what you've earned. And so take that as it lands. That's a different story for everybody, right? Should be good. If good is you've done good, you put good out there, you'll have good karmic rewards. If not, it will probably be the corrective, the eye-opener, the life lesson handed out kind of thing. So, okay, so now we will jump over to our hard days, the conflict days where there's fighting and those kind of things. So again, I'm going to say October 20th, that was a very, very mixed bag, because that guy can swing either way. And we have the Pluto square is going to, we'll back up. Jupiter square Chiron. So the 23rd is going to be a tough day. The 24th is going to be a tough day. And so again, the mixed bag. So basically, that Mercury conjunct Mars is going to be highly, highly energized energy all week long. So you're going to be very, very ambitious, and you're going to want to do things in a positive light, or you're going to want to fight with people all week long. It's just kind of one or the other. And it's going to be very, very excessively triggering on the 23rd and the 24th, because on the 23rd, it's like, Mars has got that little poking stick, and it's going to start poking at people in those old sore spots in life. So whether that be relationships, or it can be mental, emotional, physical wounds. So there can be physical hurts, illness, or problems with that. It can be financial debt or financial problems coming up, because those can be old wounds, or it can be just conflict among people, family, or friends. Okay, so just digging at old sore spots that maybe have not been resolved yet or healed. And we have that Pluto square on the 24th. That's a mean sucker. So I would just say, one of my instructors always used to say, if you can, you might want to hide under a rock. Don't engage, mind your own business. And, really do make it a pay it forward week, because not everybody's going to have a good week this week. And that's the honest to God truth. She's not going to be an even steady flow of good, because there's some harsh natures and harsh energies going on here. And so we see Sun square Pluto, and you're mixing it with, say, a shadow side Mercury conjunct Mars. That can be war. That can be global. That can be wherever applied, or, community, or within amongst people. That's hard. That's a tough one. And something else that can be a problem there is when we see that can include like violence, acts of violence. That can be stalking. It can be being vengeful energy, or vengeful tactics coming in that get back at you kind of thing, right? And just fighting. That to me says like fight to the death. When I look at this particular week, it has potential to go that way. Okay, so again, when I look at this, it's going to be primarily energized, very, very energized, and very, very highlighted all week by Mars conjunct Mercury. So that can be very, very good news coming in. So that can involve, learning and education and you might be teaching or you might be writing and speaking, those kind of things that can also involve travel. So very, very energized, like everything can click into place at lightning speed. Or again, it's that war, the war cutting away, or, people getting cut or hurt. So just, again, that can also become acts of violence as well, because it's fused. It means they're one on top of the other. They're holding hands, charging each other. So it's a mixed combination. And so the other thing I will say, again, I think I mentioned it before, we have sesquiquadrates, we have all those inconjuncts, we have, what else do we have? Yeah, those. So those are those little buggers that like to create havoc with the daily plans, especially the inconjunctions. So that means the daily plans, like I said, will be changing daily, probably if not, every couple hours within a day, which is annoying and aggravating. But if you know that ahead of time, that does help to kind of pre-plan or be mentally ready for it. Again, we are right full of pick a fight aspects. So choose your battles wisely. Basically, choose to avoid them, walk away if need be, because this week with so much Scorpio energy, this can be out of control, like at the drop of a hat. So I will put out warning, and you have the sesquiquadrates and they're picking fights with the squares, or they're elevating, or they're provoking it, right? So it's like someone could really, really lose their temper extremely quickly. And just be careful how you emotionally react. Don't if you can help it, because a lot of permanent damage can be done during this week. And if that happens, that can actually roll over to an end of a cycle. So that could be the relationship that blows up. That pot has been boiling for a long time, and all of a sudden something triggers it this week, and it blows that lid off, and that becomes the instant definition of the end of a relationship, okay? And with so much Scorpio energy, I will say it again, there is a possibility of physical death. Dealing with physical death, it might have happened. You might be dealing with the after effects, those kind of things. But more often, it's figurative death related, okay? So I will just tread carefully and think twice before acting and speaking, because it can have detrimental effects in the end. But you know what? For a lot of us, we are looking for that change, that transition, that regeneration energy, completing one thing, hopping into something new. If this week is channeled properly, it's got amazing potential to jump forward. So I think on my thing I posted on the Facebook group, I think I had put it was, an amazing energy for liftoff and ambition, or it can be the emotional complete meltdown. So you choose, and choose wisely. So we're going to jump into the energy. So I'm going to just highlight some of the main places that are going to be highlighted this week for topics or energies or things we'll be looking at, okay? So we are extremely, like I said, very Scorpio oriented because of the stellium. So a little bit of the Scorpio is self-control is needed, right? Control yourself, control your emotions, control your actions. That's something that is a must. It's very motivation driven. It's about desires and your needs. It's very emotional. It's extremely intense. It's also a highly sexual sign. So we also have Mars very active. Lots of Scorpio energy. It's highly sexual activity or sexual in nature. So just putting it out there, right? Just so you know, it's very intuitive. And Scorpio likes to deep dive. It likes to dig. It likes to mine. It likes to unearth, just like Pluto, right? Pluto rules Scorpio. So that can be about truth, being revealed. But it can also be about power control issues. Just let me flip my notes. And again, it can be power control issues. It can be very vindictive. This can also have a people-pleasing problem. It is a water sign, and that was a weak spot or a weak point for just about every water sign. Well, it is. It's also very absorbing, so be careful that you're not absorbing others' negative energy, especially this week, because that's going to want to hang with you for a while. And so it's resourceful, extremely motivated. It likes to probe. It likes to investigate. It's a very, very passionate, emotional sign. But the shadow side can be obsessive. It's very possessive. And it can be vengeful. And again, there can be stalking issues being very, very apparent this week, because when you have that energy flow, people don't realize it, but it wants to intensify that in people, and they will react to the energy and not even realize what they're reacting to or why, right? It can be sarcastic, and it can also have that very, very jealous tendency. Now, that won't be for everybody. Now, just remember, each sign has the bright side and also has the shadow side. So that's just how every sign is in the zodiac. And it's about the mental realm too. This is exceptionally good at playing mind games, right? So here's an example of a very heavy shadow Scorpio energy. That would be like Charles Manson, the mind games, playing mind games for mind control, okay? Uh, uh, Power control issues, being vindictive, those kind of things. But the very, very high side, you would often, find people who would work with deep psychology or psychologist, investigative, or in policing, because the Scorpio is a sign of seeing and knowing the unseen and the unknown. They just know because it's deeply intuitive. It's a beautiful sign once it's harnessed for control, right? So again, a very deep dive energy this week. Okay, so now we are going to move on to some of the house areas. So because we have such a high potent energy stellium of Scorpio, that means, and we have an active Pluto, right? We have a very active Pluto coming in. And again, that's going to be with a square. So those are tough spots. Those are hard spots. Those are conflict or areas of problems or issues. So this is really going to be exceptionally amplified in the 8th house. So that can cover investments, right? It's about inheritances. It's other people's resources or money. Of course, the 8th house is a death house, as is Scorpio. It's the death sign. Other people's money, it can be family money, spousal money, or it can include alimony, those kind of things, or joint bank accounts. And it can be, the 8th house is a big money house. So that can be big money in a good way, right? It can be lotto wins or just talking about big money with investments, but it can also be a huge, huge debt load, okay? And it can hover around taxes or tax base or tax returns. So it could be tax refunds, it could be taxes owing or taxes being reviewed. It's about legacy, and it might be something to do with your credit score when it comes to anything financial. Again, it's about intimacy and sex, as is Scorpio. So sex and intimacy is exceptionally elevated this week. It can be power control issues. Again, that falls back on that same Scorpio. So when you're overlapping energies, that's how it becomes exceptionally or double or triple amplified. Psychology house, and it can cover parapsychology areas, mysteries and esoteric and occult, mystical or mysticism. So that might be something that you might be looking at or wanting to study, or it might be something you might be taking on or doing on, say, social media, or maybe even as a business or just a self-interest. It's the lotto house, other people's money. Inheritances, again, can be highlighted. Anything death or death linked. So you can be talking about funeral service, the death of somebody, a physical death. Hopefully, again, that would be maybe for 1% of us, so don't get bent out of shape when I say that. It can be, looking after headstones, any sort of funeral arrangements, estates, be dealing with estates or dealing with wills, or you might be drawing up your estate or drawing up a will, those kind of things. Again, a big money house. And this can also cover not only investments, but it can also cover insurance. So you might be buying insurance, checking into insurance, or you might be having an insurance payout. Okay, so it just depends how that falls. But those particular topics, plus or minus, will be up there. And so we also have a health house very, very lit up. So I talked about the health to do with the eclipses, and so this is where it's going to fall. So house 1, 6, and 8 are all considered health houses. Now, they're all very lit up by aspects and planets, because the planets that rule those houses are very active. So that's where I go back to the rulers, the traditional rulers of these houses. So in particular, where I'm going to go back to the 8th house, the 8th house is all about surgeries. And surgeries or procedures, and often these are hidden, meaning they're done in the background. People don't know. They're not public. The public or maybe the family don't know what's being done. So, that could be any sort of surgeries, procedures. That can actually, unfortunately, I have to say this because this is part of it, it can include abortions, those kind of things, or miscarriages. That's not everybody else's business, and it can be done in the background. Or it can be facial reconstruction, facial surgeries, or anything to do with cosmetic surgeries that maybe people don't want others to know. But any sort of hidden procedure, okay? So, or it can be just the house of surgery. So we might be talking about getting a surgery, we might be booking a surgery, talking about booking a surgery, having a surgery done, or it can be post-surgery, whatever, right? And again, the death house, it's the house of transformation, the death house. So I always kind of get a chuckle out of the 8th house, because it's basically sex, taxes, and death, So it's kind of an interesting thing, a big money house involved as well. It's also the house of self-empowerment. So lots of times when we get a challenged eighth house, that's where the conflict, or those things come into this right directly in the front of the headlights, where we are forced to deal with some sort of problem. We're finally pushed into the corner where we need to make a move, we need to make a choice. And when you do, life becomes better, and whatever is going on becomes resolved, which means that becomes self-empowerment. You feel better about things, and you know what, we all need that push, it seems like. Without the squares and the oppositions and these troubled aspects coming, I think most of us would probably sit like a bump in a log, and we wouldn't change, we wouldn't move, we wouldn't grow or evolve in life. So from that aspect, even though it's really not kind, lots of times it's very uncomfortable, you know what, it's needed, or we would do nothing, we would not grow, we would not evolve as people. So that's the plus side of the hard aspects. But that's life's learning curve. I mean, we all are given a specific path in life, certain life lessons we need to learn, and circumstances or problems we need to conquer to grow, right? And that's a different spot for all of us. And so what else would this cover? It's a psychology house, right? It's a house of emotions. And when you come to the eighth house, it's also a house of hidden. It's a water house. There's only 3 water houses in the zodiac sign. That's house 4, 8, and 12, which means you can't see what's going on. It's very emotional. It's very hidden. And they're all emotions, subconscious, and psychology houses, which means you can't see below the surface. So I like to say and describe the water house as if you have a boat out on the water. And yeah, we can see the boat floating around. We can see the people on the boat, what they're doing. But there's always something going on beneath the surface, and you just can't see it. So when we have a lot of Scorpio energy, a lot of Plutonian energy, that can also mean very, very advanced intuitive guides or intuitive messages, being hyper intuitive or psychic, right? Again, Scorpio is that amazing intuitive sign where you don't have to tell it, it just knows. It knows the unknown, it sees the unseen. And once you see, you can't unsee. Once you know, you can't unknow, right? So there's always sometimes there's some issues with that. So that's 8th house. And then we are going to bounce over to the 1st house. And again, this is the house of Mars and Aries. And we only have one major aspect, and that's a conjunction, but I want to include this because this too is also a health house. Okay, this is about the physical body. So you might be looking at your physical body, wanting to get it in better shape, or maybe there's something wrong within the physical body, sickness, illness, those kind of things that we need to address. So it's about the physical body, plus or minus. And it's about our health and state of health. So it can be weight loss, wellness, illness, and how you see yourself, how you present yourself, how you're seen as a physical person, your appearance, and how you're identified. And it's also your viewpoint. So how you see yourself, how you approach each day with your situations, and how your view is of the world on each and every day. It's how you enter the world as the 1st house. It's ruled by Aries. It's ruled by Mars. And again, I will put out warning about the head. So this can be resolutions maybe with headaches and migraines, but it can also be the migraines or headaches setting in, or head trauma. So, or anything to do with the sinus cavities in behind the eyes, anything to do with the head around the brain, on the outside of the head, in the brain. It can be growths on the brain. That conjunction, again, that can swing positive or negative. So I would just say, be cautious and be very careful around the head, face areas, internal and external. Okay. And it might be sinus problems as well in behind the eyes, upper cavities, those kind of things. Anything like that. Anything related to the head, in or out. Okay, and so again, that's very, very energized. And so another area that's going to be highlighted is the 3rd house. And why I say that, because we have an active Mercury, and Mercury rules the 3rd house. And so this is around people close to us. This can be neighbors, and it's often relatives. So it can include like aunts and uncles, cousins. It can include anybody as relatives, except it doesn't include kids, and it does not include parents. So it's a communication house. It's an air house. So this can include air travel of any kind. You might be thinking about it. You might be booking it. You actually might be on your trip this week or coming back. But something to do with air travel or transportation. And it's a house of communication. So when I say air house, that can cover travel, but it's also very, very high communication oriented. When the 3rd house is linked up Gemini likes to talk. We have lots to talk about. And that is Mercury. There's lots to be talk about. You might be learning, you might be teaching, it might be education, those kind of things. And it also involves young people. young people or children. Mercury is about the young person. And so when I talk about communication, that can include communication devices or systems. So we're talking like computers or laptops or desktops, phones, iPhones, iPads, iPods, those kind of thing, anything interpersonal. It also includes social media and internet. So that can be any social media platform, that can be YouTube, that can be TikTok, any sort of social media platform, plus or minus. So you might be getting into it, or you might be watching it, or it might be something new that you've been taking on. This includes transportation and mobility. So also Mercury is all about transportation and mobility. So that can be modes of transportation. So that can be trucks, cars. You might be looking at them. You might be buying one. You might be selling one. That can include bicycles, mopeds. It can include wheelchairs, those kind of things, scooters. And this is also the house of siblings. So not only is it relatives, people close to us, but it's siblings. So you might be discussing things with siblings, or siblings might be phoning you, or you might be phoning them. Or it's just a sibling oriented situation or circumstances or topic, okay? It's also about short trips here, there, and all over. So that means short distance uptown, maybe to the next city, next town, back and forth. It's very, very busy. And again, it's internet related. So anything to do with internet connections, maybe quality of internet, or doing business over the internet, those kind of things. And I will also put out warning is gossip. The third house can be a gossip problem. So this week, be very, very, very cautious of what you put out there. I would definitely think once, twice, 3 times before you say anything. No fact from fiction, because if you don't, it's going to get you into trouble. Gossip is very highlighted within the third house, and that would be a warning. So just again, because it's so triggered and it's so energized by high conflict aspects like squares coming in, right? Or this can be something from the past being surfaced, or maybe you found out somebody was spreading gossip about from years ago or some time ago, and it surfaces and all of a sudden explodes into the fight, or someone kind of getting an ass chewing kind of thing, a corrective state. So I will just put warning out there. Okay. And so we will bounce over to the elements again. So the elements, because we are sitting in a stellium, well, not quite, but as a Wednesday, a stellium of Scorpio. So Scorpio is very emotional. It's very intense. It's very intuitive, but it's a fixed sign. And so fixed sign means it likes to stay on the straight and narrow, steady as she goes. It doesn't really do all that well with change, but you know, all fixed signs are like that. So be flexible. And because there's so much going on for change and being change oriented this week, you're going to have to be very, very hyper vigilant about thinking about this, because by nature, because of the Scorpio energy, we all want to do that and do it till it's finished, and we want to stay on that same path. We want to have that same plan concreted in, but that's not going to happen because of the aspects. But Scorpio is going to say, I want to keep on doing this till I'm done, and the aspect says, no, you're not. You're going to change. We're going to go do this. We're going to go do that, and we're going to alter the plan. So it's kind of, the black versus the white. Scorpio wants to stay the same and maintain, and the aspects this week says, no, we're not. So be flexible. So just know that. And future awareness always helps with the kind of the mental state and mental preparation of what's coming in this week. And that's why we want to know that, right? Then we're not caught off guard. We can mentally prepare. Okay, so we will jump over to our health and anatomy. So and that's something, before I jump onto that, I'm just going to talk about the polarity. And again, the polarity is we have lots of feminine Scorpio energy, but it's going to be mixing with quite a bit of masculine. So there can be a bit of a quality difference there. So, it would be feminine versus masculine, but we do have some good flowing energy here. So the trines, right? I'll talk a little bit more about that a little bit later. Actually, you know what? I will do it now. So the trine energy, it's a push-pull with, basically masculine versus feminine. So that can be like the fight of masculine or men versus women, or feminine versus masculine, like there's an upset or a conflict or a fight, we don't agree. But on the other hand, there's lots of flowing. So it can be very harmonious and very productive, right? So that would be the trine energy. So be very, very focused on the trine energy. And try work out, be cooperative with whatever conflict comes in, because we don't want to stay there this week, because there's so many good aspects going on, meaning the trines, right? We don't have any sextiles, but we have trines. So we have 2 trines. And so this is going to hover around growth and expansion. Like, you're going to get good news about maybe expanding your horizons or moving into something brand new, a brand new cycle where, there's interest and I can expand my horizons. And it could be education. It could be good fortune, good luck coming, news of good luck or good fortune coming and you won something or someone wants to give you money or something like that. And the other thing is this can also be news or communication linked. And that will be with manifesting, maybe expanding your horizons. It can be karmic rewards coming in and it's manifesting in a very, very good way or fashion. And so those are really, really good. Like, we have really good energies, but there's a lot of destructive energies going on around it. So stay hyper focused on the good. And again, something else, it can be, I'm willing to face my fear, something I'm worried about or something I haven't wanted to deal with. You can maybe hit that stage where something finally hits that boiling point and we can look after it, we can deal with it, and we acknowledge it. And then all of a sudden everything clicks into place. Saturn likes to reward with hard work, right? It's the one about taking responsibilities, being very, very well disciplined. And when you do your work, you do your tasks, you take responsibilities. It's exceptionally, exceptionally rewarding. We actually have a grand water trine going on starting this week, but it will actually extend until next week, the 28th. So grand water trine means we have 3 trines and they're all close together in proximity with an orb, and they're all sitting in water signs. So that's very, very luxurious, very good luck, very good mojo energy. So we're stepping into that, but it's got those little sticks that are picking and prodding and trying to pick fights and conflict with the Pluto square, right? And the Chiron square. It's just like somebody can't let go and it keeps on poking and prodding, or it just will not quit, right? So know the difference, and I hope you can feel the energies of what, irritates you. And you might have to go outside and decompress or burn sage or use singing bowls or listen to good music. Decompress, get rid of that negative energy as much as possible, as much as required, because we want to stay shed of that negative energy. You don't want to carry it with you. And because it's high Scorpio energy, Scorpio is a water sign. All water signs like to absorb everybody else's negative energy or positive, but this is going to be a little bit influenced by a lot of negative energy, and Scorpio likes to take it on, and sometimes it can react because of it. So shed, get rid of, and lose all that negative energy, even if it's doing gentle exercise, going for a walk, being in nature, maybe planting a plant, doing household chores to burn off that energy. So something else I'd like to say to people too, often when people are so upset or cheesed off about something, that's when you can get your house cleaned in like lightning speed, because you're so upset. It gets done in a flash. But the good part about that, not only your house is clean in a record time, but you're burning off that excess negative energy. And when it's burnt off, then you know what? You feel good. But in the end, you also have something constructive and positive that was done because of it. So cleaning the house, cleaning the deep freeze, cleaning the fridge, maybe cleaning vehicles, or apply it accordingly, where you can actually put that negative energy to good use to burn off in positive ways in the end is another good idea. So, and something else that really helps with people is listen to good music. So whatever good music is to you, it's enlightening and it sheds negative energy. And for a lot of people who have a lot of good self-control, she's going to be a great mojo week for you guys. It's a lot of accomplishments. It can be karmic rewards coming in, or just good karma, good luck, and, things still showing up on your doorstep as maybe investments paying off, or that insurance payment coming in, or things rolling ahead with an estate or a will or inheritances. It can be those kind of things. So again, it's got lots of very, very, very good luxurious energy with it, but it's got that spiteful downside where it's very, very fight oriented. So again, caution, people. Pay attention to what's going on around you. Okay, so now we will jump into the health and anatomy. So the health and anatomy, the areas that are going to be covered is going to be Scorpio. So that's, again, because of the stellium, that's where I'm going with this. So when we look at the Scorpio energy, so the particular spots in health with Scorpio, and I will mention Pluto as well, that's going to cover the genitals. So that's female and male, the bladder, the rectum, and the reproductive organs. So the reproductive organs of any kind, so that can be ovaries, that can be testes. That also includes hormone or the endocrine area as well. Okay, so the hormone, whether it's testosterone, estrogen, anything to do with the reproductive energies in female or male body. Okay. And I'm just going to jump over to I'll cover Pluto right now because we're talking about Scorpio. So those are always intermixed. So when we talk about Scorpio energy, that will take in the Pluto. So when we get to Pluto, often this will cover areas of, again, the eliminative organs, which means, it would be the colon, the rectum, and that can be the bladder, anything linking from the bladder to where it's expelled, and including the rectum, that whole, the elimination organs from the time it's being processed to where it would be eliminated out of the body, okay? Reproductive systems, again, that's very male and female, anything to do with the reproductive system. So the testes, testosterone, the hormone systems, male or female, again, ovaries, anything to do with the womb, the uterus, those kind of things, those areas. Or the delivery canal as well. That will take in the pituitary gland, and this is where it always links back to Pluto being abnormal growth. So we could be talking about warts, skin tags, tumors, moles, birthmark, and Pluto always covers the topic of cancer. So that can be the topic of cancer anywhere in the anatomy, anywhere in the body, head to toe. So you could be talking about cancer issues, cancer problems, cancer treatments. What are we going to do? There could be diagnosis, or there could be treatments involved. Anything to do with cancer, one way or the other. Okay, because we do have some good things going on here, but we do have that Pluto square, which would indicate with any of these things I just mentioned, there could be problems or hiccups or those kind of things, issues with it. Okay, or just talk about it. Even the talk of cancer in general is going to surface this week. Okay, and so we will move on. So this also involves the sun. So this can be the upper back areas, the spleen, the circulatory system, the sperm, the male sperm, the eyes. And, again, this will be looking at your general vitality and your state of health. Again, that would really point back to that first house area. This is also going to include the nervous system. So hyperactive nervous system is going to probably be very highlighted this week, and so that's something you're going to have to calm down the nervous system, do something about it. Again, decompression, getting rid of negative energy out of the body will certainly help. So anywhere in the brain, again, that will relate back to that first house. The sight, the mouth, the tongue, the respiratory system, which includes the lungs or, the trachea, hands, arms, that will include elbows, the thyroid gland, and when you have an active Mercury, that is always about the mind, the thymus gland as well. So when we talk about mind, that can be mental health, that can be the mind, maybe chemical imbalances or hormonal imbalances in the head or the brain. It can also be about depression. So depression always can sit in the brain. It can be like a mental health, mental depression. Anything to do with mental health in any way, shape, and form can be very, very highlighted here. And so we are going to jump to the Mars area. And again, the Mars, that takes in the muscular system. So again, I talked about this a little bit earlier. So Mars rules the first house. So that's about the physical body. So muscular system, external reproductive system, the head, the face areas, and I can't highlight that and give warning about that. Just be very, very careful about the head and face area. Or, and in a positive light, it can be, you might be looking after your skin and your head and your face, or maybe eye care, or maybe nasal cavity care, looking after your sinuses, or you might find a way to reduce or get rid of headaches, those kind of things. It can be very, very positive, anything, or positive news about the head and the brain as well. That runs on the fine line on the top rail of the fence. Can be positive or negative. It's about the red blood cells, the bladder, and the adrenal glands. So and it also cuts away. So just remember, Mars is like the surgeon. Mars cuts away things that are no longer serving positivity in life, but it can also include cuts, especially to the physical body, or cuts to the head. Again, Mars is that god of war. So often when Mars is involved, that can also involve accidents or traumas, okay? So just putting warning out there, for the most part, conjunctions are positive, but that's not reality, because it certainly can swing the other way. So that can involve maybe news about accidents, or news about head traumas or something within the head. Okay. Something else I wanted to discuss, because I believe I left it out, is going to be the sixth house affairs. And that is going to be, that's the sixth house, that's a health house, okay? So that's about our daily routines, right? Health regimens, that can include pets, those kind of things. I think I lost it. Okay. Bear with me. Here we go. Okay. So again, like I did say earlier, house 1, 6, and 8 is all lit up. That's definitely health house, or health house is lit up. So that's definitely a high focus in this area. So however that relates to you. So the sixth house is the health house. It's also a little bit of bad luck in there. It's one of those houses, and it's also a karma house, right? So healing karmic wounds, that can be that. Are healing and health and wellness and daily routines relating to health and wellness, but that can also include daily routines that we do each and every day. And if you don't have a daily routine or a structure or some sort of strategy, that's something you might want to be looking at. It can include organization. It's all about the detail, the devil's in the detail, about systems that work. And it might be very work oriented, like my job is this and my job is that, I'm interested. And it's about doing things that are very, very important to you. This can cover also pets. You might be mentoring somebody, or somebody might be mentoring you with something. And this is very highlighted again about doing things that are very, very important to you, and it's contributing to society. The sixth house in Virgo is about service to the world. So, I mean, you could be anywhere from the accountant, the tax accountant, to the undertaker, or, being a healer, a doctor, nurse, a naturopath, doctor, acupuncturist, anything like that. And something else, it can hover around being employed, employees, or you might have employees, or you might be the employee. They can hover around those areas, or dealing with employees. And the other thing I want to talk about the sixth house, which can be, this is on the shadow side of it. So it can be a run of bad luck, right? That can be health oriented, that can be work oriented, those kind of things, or just bad luck in small ways. But it's also the house of enslavement and slavery. So every time this comes up, you can often tell on people's birth charts, if they have a packed sixth house, they can feel like they were somebody's slave or enslaved to something or somebody, or somebody's making them feeling enslaved, or slavery involved, however it would play out or however it would be applicable. That won't be for everybody, but it will definitely be for some of you, okay? And the fifth house, I want to this is the secondary choices, kind of. They're not quite as busy as the rest, but I still want to put it out there. So it's the house of children. And it's about, again, romance, sex, and falling in love. And that will be holding hands with Scorpio of the intense sexual desire, or, sexually highlighted, or intimacy highlighted. So those will run hand in hand, okay? But here's the fifth house is also about good luck, right? A little bit of good luck coming in there, about the bucket list. Children, grandchildren, and it's about doing things that you enjoy, that you have fun with. It's pleasure, joy. It's about creative expression. Creative projects, hobbies. And the big thing is about having fun. If you're one of those people who work, and maybe it's come to the time, maybe you're retired, maybe you're not, but maybe you're thinking about, maybe I need to have more fun. And it's about hidden talents. So those talents that maybe weren't exposed or publicly known, we can be looking at those, doing those. Those might even turn into a new job or a new career. All of a sudden, what you're doing, it just takes off. And this also includes being seen on a more public or global scale. You're being known for something, your craft, your skill, or what you do. That can include on the internet, or YouTube, or TikTok, or those kind of social media platforms, anything on the internet. Or it can be in your community or your country, or again, global. But the biggest thing is to find what brings you joy, pleasure. And the fifth house could be the house of gambling too, right? And again, we do have some trine energy coming in there, so that can be always a good thing. Do not gamble in excess. I'm not suggesting that by any means. Be responsible, okay? So that will pretty much end our reading, which I probably talked way too much already. But anyway, basically when I look at this, it's for a theme, I would say, let's get the party started. That is that conjunction that just breaks us in, and we lead in with that energy, which is going to last all week long. It's coming in hot. It's coming in supercharged to move forward. Or it can be the complete emotional meltdown, but it's a motivation peaked, okay? And so when we talk about Scorpio, it's very desire-ridden, okay? And so chasing your desires, but keep, the morality in check. Okay, and so this week, again, I'm just going to make a mention. We don't have much North Node activity, which means that's our future destined Dharma fated paths, our soul journey. And so when I look at this is mean like kicking up a fuss. There's things we need to deal with. There's conflict that needs to be settled and resolved. And we need to restructure and review and kind of rewrite the trajectory. We need to make the applicable adjustments to move forward. So it's almost like a pause and reflect and redo. This week to me feels a lot like a Mercury retrograde, but it's not. It just kind of feels that way due to the aspects. So with that being said, I am going to end our weekly woo from October 20th to October 26th. So please make the most of it, and if you're provoked, do not engage, walk away. Again, a lot of permanent damage can be done this week, so please avoid doing that. There is so much good potential going on. Grab the good stuff. So, and again, this week will not play out the same for everybody. This is not going to be a good week for some people, but it will be excessively good for others. So make it a pay it forward week. Put a smile on someone's face. Do something kind, even if it's giving somebody your time or lending an ear, because some support for people is certainly going to be needed this week. So until we talk again, stay happy, stay healthy, take care of yourself, and take care of each other for now. Bye.